Let's get straight into it. Joining me now is the Australian newspaper's Washington correspondent, Adam Creighton. Adam, thanks for joining me on the U.S. Report tonight. Now, just in time for holiday season, and happy Thanksgiving to you, by the way, Bidenomics has managed to deliver the costliest Thanksgiving in American history. Tell me, how is that playing out with voters, and are people struggling as much as some of the numbers I've seen suggest?
Yeah, look, I think they certainly are. I think the main story of US politics right now is the fact that people are furious about price increases, that they feel poorer, they are poorer. And I think the price of a typical Thanksgiving meal, I think, is 26% more than it was just a few years ago. Now, that's a very substantial increase. And of course, it's not just the price of Thanksgiving meals, it's the price of a new home in the US has gone up 32% in 3 years, which is an extraordinary increase. That has never happened before in US history over such a short period of time. And at the same time, you've got the average rate of interest on a 30-year home loan has basically doubled, or actually more than doubled. So there are so many points in the economy that people, especially young people, I might add, and they're, of course, the group that typically supports the Democrats, would be very angry. So yes, it is it's not such a great Thanksgiving this year.
Yeah,
and it's anyway.
And you're coming into Christmas, too, which, of course, also brings its own cost pressures. But the White House says they're making the situation better, claiming that prices are down. Have a listen to this.
We have seen important progress. Just in time for holiday travel, gas prices are down $1.70 from their peak. Airline tickets are down 13% over the last year, and car rentals are down about 10%. The cost of a Thanksgiving dinner fell this year.
Now, have they done the old thing where you come down off a very high peak a little bit and say, hey, we're winning?
Yes, that's exactly right. And of course, she's only chosen a few items. I mean, the overall rate of inflation in the US is still about 4%, which is double the Federal Reserve's target. So prices are still going up. It's just that they're going up not quite as fast as they were going up. So that's not great news for the ordinary American family. And, I think really calling all of this Biden economics, I think, has been a huge mistake for the Democrats, because people just associate these price increases with President Biden.
Yeah, it's some pretty incredible messaging there from the president and his team. And speaking of the president, he celebrated his 81st birthday this week, sparking a fresh round of questions about his fitness for a second term in office. Are people looking at that saying 81? Come on, that's a bit old there. Yeah, look, I think they are, but I think it's not so much the question of age. I mean, some people are very sharp at 81, 82. I mean, look at Bernie Sanders. I think the Prime Minister of Malaysia recently was 93. So it's not so much age as the person of President Biden himself. He's just not performing very well. He's sometimes not coherent. I mean, he's clearly aged not well, to be polite, and it's quite marked in the last 3 years, at least from my point of view, and I think all Americans see that. And so I think it's a big issue. I think after the economy that we just spoke about, the second issue is the person of the president. I think that's the big problem for the Democrats, and it's going to be so hard for them to try to convince him to stand aside. I don't know how they're going to do that. Well, and Adam, you mentioned before how they, messed up the messaging and calling it Bidenomics, so people think about that. I couldn't go past, in terms of messaging and his birthday, this incredible photo that they put out on social media of the president sitting in front of this cake that looks like it's going to set off every fire alarm in the White House. And at the same time, while this cake is on fire, he's also holding onto the table like he's going to fall off. What's happening here, Adam?
I know. It's crazy. It looks like, he's going to set the world on fire. That's kind of the imagery, which of course is what his critics are saying. But yes, certainly the communication strategy is just really bad. I mean, it's that's just a shocking picture, and it's been the subject of so much mockery on Twitter or X.
X now, please. And also this week, too, there was an important anniversary here. The 22nd of November marked the 60th anniversary of John F. Kennedy's assassination in Dallas. Now, you've written a really interesting piece here in The Australian. I wanted to get you to take us through a bit of this about JFK and his relationship to the CIA, and how this is continuing to raise questions with people who think that there may have been more than just Lee Harvey Oswald responsible for that terrible crime. Talk us through it. Yeah, well, certainly back in 1992, the US Congress basically forced all of the formally classified documents related to the JFK assassination to be released by 2017. And most of them have been released, I think something like 99%. And so in that story, I asked an expert who's kind of fully across all of those documents that have been released, what are the 5 big things that we've learned, which they did not know in the Warren Commission and which they did not know in the 1976, I think, House inquiry into JFK's assassination. So there is a lot more new information. And, it is, there's no smoking gun, but it's very interesting. And the main points are that Lee Harvey Oswald was well known to the CIA for 3 years before the assassination. I mean, he was, his name was well known to senior CIA people. Now, that was not known to the Warren Commission. The second thing was that the CIA was funding various pro and anti-Cuba organisations, and that Lee Harvey Oswald was actually part of some of those organisations. So that's interesting, and again, the Warren Commission did not know that.
So, Adam, what's your take? With all of these sorts of things, do you think it was a conspiracy, or do you think that that this was just simply the sole shooter, but there was just a lot more that we haven't been told because it might reveal other nefarious things that government agencies like the CIA were up to?
Well, look, I don't know, but it's very suspicious that there's still 4,000 documents that have not been released. And the Act here says they should be, and they haven't been. President after president has just not done it. And they clearly don't want to embarrass the CIA. It clearly says things that are really embarrassing. And that's why they won't release them. So at the very least, Americans have not been told the full story. And they probably never will, to be honest.
Well, it's a bit of a shame, but yeah, no, look, I'm with you on that. Would be great to see what's in those documents, but I doubt we ever will. Adam Creighton from The Australian, thank you so much for joining us, and a very happy Thanksgiving to you in Washington, D.C.